Hey, hey, hey. Hello, 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 everybody. Um, Thank you so much. I am so glad to have you all with me. It is Sunday, the start of another week. I don't know about you, but these days and weeks and months seem to go by faster and faster and faster. I know we are primarily working from home. Some might be juggling working from home, actually going into the office a day or two a week. But whew, I am thankfully still working from home full time. And I'm telling you, I feel like the days go by faster now than they did when I was going and commuting and going into the office. But nonetheless, I am glad that we have the ability to be able to work from home in the midst of all that is going on. So I will not belabor our discussion tonight because I am super excited about what we are going to be talking about. So if you are here, just hit me up with the hey, she win. Let me know that you have joined me. Let me know that you are ready to learn about making you essential again. Like I said, say hello. Let me know that you are here. I'm trying to see who is on with me. And we are going to get started soon. Let's see. All right, cool. Thanks for letting me know who is on. If by chance you are going to be catching the replay, it is greatly appreciated. Hey, now, how are you? Thank you so much. Glad you are able to join us this evening. I am, like I said, super, super, super excited about what we are going to be talking about. We are going to be talking about making you essential again, self revitalization. I always get tongue tied when I say that word. A, it's long, and B, it's a lot of vowels. And C, it does not help with these braces on. However, with that being said, we are about to get started. So, again, good evening. I am Shalita Shewin Winfield Duke, your personal success coach at shewinunlimited.com. And I want to say thank you, thank you, thank you for deciding to take your Sunday evening and spend just a bit of time with me. So, by way of introduction, let me introduce myself to those who are on the call. I help Christian professional women to own the value that they bring to the table by translating their corporate success to their personal lives so that they can cultivate thriving relationships without settling for less than what God has for them. As women of God, as women of faith, as King's kids, as daughters of the Most High God, there is no reason why we should be settling for less than what God has for us. And one of the ways that we do that is by not making ourselves a priority. I was talking to some friends of mine earlier today, and we were talking about self care and about how that is more than Manny's Petties and going to get your annual physical. Self care is about so much more than that. Those things are important, but that is not all that self care is made of. And one way that you can take care of yourself is to understand where you are on the priority list. And that is what we are going to be talking about this evening. First, let me explain if you see me doing this, I got my first vaccine about a week ago, and for some random reason, my arm has started to itch in that spot. It almost feels like a mosquito bite. And so I subconsciously am doing this. So pay no attention. Don't let it distract you like it does me sometimes. And yeah, so we're going to keep on moving. Second, I always have my notes to the left or to the right. So if you see me looking, that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm looking at my notes. So anyway, we are going to be talking about, like I said, self-revitalization. And back in the 90s, early 2000s, I used to live in Richmond, Virginia. I was living in Richmond, had just finished college, was living in Richmond, was working in in-home therapy with young adults, teenagers who were at risk of being incarcerated due to their activities that they had chose to participate in of which was not school or good things, needless to say. And during that time, I was in an area called Churchill quite often. And during that time, Churchill was plagued with drugs, violence, crime, all kinds of things. Very well known for those activities, very well known for the standard of living in that area. And so quite a few of my kids that I was working with came from that area. And so by the time I started working there in the early 2000s, well, mid 90s actually, it was obvious that the criminal and the gang and the drug activity had really taken a toll on what was a very prestigious area, in that it was a very well-known area in the Richmond city area, and was used to be very full of people who were doing well during that time from a financial situation. But like I said, back in the mid 90s, it had began to fall off, and there were a lot of dilapidated buildings. Like I said, a lot of crime and whatnot and what have you. And so that area was prime for revitalization, and um, it was obvious that that is where it was headed. And when I began to think about revitalization and revitalization of yourself, of your soul, God brought me back to that particular area. And so just being able to get the visual of what revitalization is. And so when I looked at that word, it is broken up into a combination of three different words: re, meaning again, vital, meaning us making it essential, vital being that it is vital is something that is essential. And the ization, ization, is the doing or making something. So essentially, revitalization is to make something essential again. Again, meaning that it used to be, but now is not. And so you want to now make it essential again. So that's the root of what that word is. And that's where I began to think of, how do we as women get to a place where we used to be important? Apparently, life happens. We no longer make ourselves important, i.e., a priority, or we are involved with people who are not making us a priority, i.e., making us feel like we are important. And then, how do we get back to that part of understanding where we fit in? So, one thing I do want to ask is to let me know if you feel like either you are at a place where you need to make yourself important, i.e., make yourself a priority, or if you have been in a place, or if there has been a time in your life where you did not feel like you were making yourself a priority. You can let me know. You can either say now in the chat or say then in the chat. So now, if you are in a space where you realize that you are not making yourself a priority, and that is your now, or let me know by saying then, meaning when there was a time when you used to feel like you were not making yourself a priority. So one of the things that I want to share in terms of that is that God talks to us about being made new. He talks to us in his word about that the former things are no longer, and that we are now able to be made new in him. So Isaiah 43, 18 and 19 says that, well, I'm paraphrasing. You can read the actual scripture, but these are all my paraphrases. To forget the former things, do not dwell on the past, for I am, meaning God, Christ, is doing a new thing. So when I think about revitalization, I think about, okay, there was this thing in the past, or I was treating myself a certain way, or I was allowing myself to be treated a certain way in the past. But I am not in that place anymore. I have learned things about myself. I realize that I am a priority, and now I am in a place where I am making myself new or vital or essential again. One of the ways that I did that, one of the first things that I did when I did that, was I acknowledged, accepted, and appreciated my feelings. And it's not easy to get to that place. I recognize that. It is not easy to get to a place where you can appreciate, acknowledge, or accept how you feel about a thing. That is not an always easy place to get to. Um, it is so easy to lose sight of who we are and what is important to us as we are always taking care of others, as we are always taking care of things for others, as we are always doing things for someone else. It becomes easier and easier to push ourselves to the back, to put ourselves on the back burner. The thing about that is when we do that, we allow or we show people that it becomes easier and easier to allow them to put us on the back burner as well. So, which is not a good thing. People treat us the way we show them and the way we allow. So, if we are not making ourselves important, if we are not making ourselves a priority, then how is it that we would expect or even mandate someone else to do that? There was a time, some time ago, with my now ex husband, I absolutely lost sight of who I was and how much I mattered to me with all that was going on in the midst of my separation at that time. It's a very easy to disregard yourself when you already feel disregarded, when you are already feeling like someone that you love and that you're supposed to be spending your life with is you feel disregarded by that person, it becomes easier and easier to justify that by not feeling regarded within your own self. And so while I was going through the emotions and going through just the everyday living, I realized that I didn't have any joy. I realized that I had stopped acknowledging, accepting, and appreciating my feelings because I was so consumed and concerned with the feelings of someone else. And so during that time, when we initially separated, it's so funny. I didn't tell anybody. I was working. I was supervising a team of 4 or 5 people, and absolutely no one knew at that time that I was separated. It's so weird. I didn't tell anybody. I didn't want anybody to feel sorry for me. I didn't want anybody to join in with my pity party or any of that. I wanted to live in my feelings as long as I needed to. And that gets back to that acknowledge, accepting, and appreciating how I was feeling. Separation and divorce is like a death, basically, because you have to grieve. I had to grieve those things that were associated with the demise of my marriage. And I wanted to do that without any input from anybody else. Yep, they may have meant well, but I just wanted to be able to feel how I was feeling by myself. So I didn't tell anybody. But what I did do in order to acknowledge how I was feeling was um, I made what I called back then an altar box. And what I did was I named each feeling one by one, placed it in that altar box, and put it on the shelf. And I did that because that to me was a symbol that while I acknowledged how I was feeling, I didn't have to stay stuck in how I was feeling. And so I put it there. You know, people always say, leave it on the altar, but we don't tend to do that. We tend to put it on the altar and then take it back. That was my way of acknowledging, accepting, and appreciating exactly what I was going through at that time, how I was feeling about what I was going through at that time, me physically turning it over to God, and then me leaving there. That is how I started my healing process. I was able to turn everything over to God, acknowledge it, but allow God to heal me one by one emotion at a time. So that was the first thing that I did in learning how to make myself a priority. The second thing that I did in learning how to make myself a priority was I filled my space with positive, powerful words. I'm a music person. I do not sing, but I love music and I love all types of music. And so for me, in allowing myself, or should I say, in filling my space with powerful and positive words, I listened to a lot of music, and not everything was praise and worship. Yes, that there was praise and worship, but not everything was praise and worship. Now, I'm over 50 and I am a complete Mary J. Blige fan, and I listened to Mary a lot during that time. And because the pain and the raw emotion that she put into her songs back then, and I'm talking old Mary, not necessarily new Mary, because she in a different place in her life, but old Mary I listened to a lot of, because she put a lot of pain and power into her songs. um, but in doing that, I was able to really fill myself with the words that I needed to be saying to myself. And I began to sing those lyrics over and over again. And that was part of the process for me, and the confirmation that words have power. We know that the power of life and death is in the tongue. I understand that words have power, but when you start to speak things over your life and you see it happening, there is a different um, conviction about things. So I began to say no more drama. I began to sing real love. I began to sing Love No Limit, so on and so forth. So many of her songs were on repeat. And no, I am not talking about Mary Mary, because I listened to them too. I am talking straight Mary J. Blige, because she was at the space where I was during that time. And so while I absolutely listen, like I said, to No More Shackles and what else? Yesterday by Mary Mary again. I was singing Mary J. Blige as well as Mary Mary. But the point that I wanted to make about filling your space with powerful words is that your words that you take in and the words that you put out will either move you out of the funk or it will keep you in the funk. And you have the ability to change the atmosphere by the words that you say. Granted, I absolutely read the word and I quoted scriptures and I said affirmations and all of those things, but music is different. Music is different for me. You have to find out what works for you. For me, it was music. It had a different impact. It just hit differently. And I could continue to play those songs over and over and over and over again and get them deep down in my spirit and use them as a way to help me remember and reaffirm that I am essential to myself. And that is what is important. I have to be essential for me before I can expect someone else to treat me as a priority. I have to make myself a priority if that is what I'm going to put out to the world. The third thing that I did, so first was to acknowledge, accept, and appreciate my feelings. That was the first thing I did when it came time to learn how to make myself a priority. The next thing I did was to fill my space with powerful words, by way of music, reading, affirmation, so forth and so on. The third thing I did was I had to get outside and move. Now, my husband may not agree with this because I feel like I don't move like I used to or as much as I need to. But that was number three, was to get out and move. Back then, I had a dog, my Samson. Those who know me know him. That was my Samsy Poo. And so having a dog had gave me the responsibility of having to get outside and get moving. Hey Tish, thank you so much for joining me. So good to see you. Having a dog forced me to get out, forced me to get moving, because he wasn't playing. When he had to go out, he had to go out. And so 3 times a day, I was essentially moving, getting outside to move because of him. And so, whether it was beautiful outside, whether it was raining, it didn't matter. I had to go out in order to walk him. But that's the beauty of it. Because I had to go walk him, because it didn't matter what the weather was like, I was able to take in the sunshine and I was able to take in the rain. And either one were both examples of God's love. Because absolutely everything is not going to be sunshine. There is going to be some rain, but even the rain is needed to help things grow. And so I remember this one time I was out walking the dog and we got caught in one of those 5 minute pour down, one of those rain showers that came about. Um, and at first, really nobody wants to be outside getting poured on. Two, you don't want to be outside getting poured on with a dog with a whole bunch of hair because you wet and he wet. So nobody wants to go in the house with that. However, with that being said, being outside, not being able to run in for shelter really taught me a different lesson, and something on the inside of me shifted. I recognized that the rain felt good. The rain that I was in was cleansing. It felt warm. It felt like things were just washing away. And initially, when the rain came, I was mad because I'm wet from top to bottom. And now not only do I got to deal with me being wet, I got to deal with my dog being wet. But then I was like, but wait, this is absolutely beautiful because it showed me that things can just wash away down the drain. When it rains like that in the spring, summertime, and you see all that green pollen just wash away because it has just been sitting stagnant and heavy. That's how I was feeling when we got caught out in the rain that day in particular. It showed me that even in the bad times, the pain can be washed away. And so I say to get outside and move because I would have never experienced that shift had I not been outside moving, i.e., walking the dog, and gotten caught out in the rain. It was a beautiful thing. It only happened once, ironically, but it was so memorable and so life changing. So you want to get outside, you want to move, you don't want to miss those opportunities to just relish in the beauty of what God can do. So, and talking about making yourself a priority for those of us who are just tuning in, I greatly appreciate it so very much. And talking about making yourself a priority and talking about making you new again, that revitalization of your soul or within your soul. The first thing we talked about was that you have to acknowledge, accept, and appreciate your feelings about things, good and bad. The second thing is you have to fill your space with powerful words. The third thing is that you have to get outside and move. And the fourth and final thing is that you have to forgive yourself. I'm just going to stop right there. You have to forgive yourself. And that is probably the hardest thing for us to be able to do. In order to begin to start fresh, in order to begin to start anew, you have to forgive yourself for the things that you did, that you accepted, that you allowed, that you participated in, whatever it is, whatever word you want to put there. Um, you have to forgive yourself for those decisions and choices that you made that brought you to the place that you are today. Not every decision is bad. Not every place is bad. I am reminded about Romans 8:28 that says, all things work together. I almost forgot. That says all things work together for the good for those who love the Lord and are called according to his purpose. Everything that you have gone through to this very point has a purpose. And everything that you have gone through up to this very point, God can turn it around and can work it for your good. I am proof positive, living proof of that, because everything that I've gone through in my past up to this date has made me exactly the woman that I am to this point. And so don't despise the small beginnings. Don't ignore the things that have happened in your past, but don't be bound by them either. Don't allow the enemy to use them to set a root of guilt and shame Therefore, you aren't able to embrace that newness. You aren't able to make yourself a priority. You aren't able to be revitalized because you are allowing yourself to be stuck in the past. So when I say forgive yourself, that is exactly what I mean. Forgive yourself. So in the example of my first marriage, I was so focused on him. I was so mad at him and how things didn't work and what he did and what he didn't do. And this wasn't supposed to be this way. And after all of these years, we were together and blah, blah, blah. 10 years knowing each other, well, really more than 10 years knowing each other. And then all of a sudden, we're not even married for 5. Like, it was just everything. I was focused on him. But at the end of the day, he was going off doing whatever it was that he wanted to do. I was stuck with me. And so I had to learn to forgive myself for the things that I had allowed, put up with, accepted, whatever the case may have been. And so I was not doing good by myself, focusing on someone else. In order to be able to make me a priority, in order to make myself new again, in order to be made whole by God, I had to look inwardly and say, okay, let me own my stuff. Let me look at what I did, what I accepted, and then to move to forgive myself. Because, when I repent and I ask God to forgive me, that part was already done. But the harder part is in forgiving me. I had to forgive myself. And so I had to forgive myself for settling. That's a real thing. I had to forgive myself for ignoring the signs. I had to forgive myself for not speaking up. I had to forgive myself for some of the things that I had accepted and allowed. I had to forgive myself for feeling like I had failed. And so I had to really begin to turn that thinking around, because when you don't, you start doubting yourself. I started doubting myself. And so I had really began to be consumed by all the things that I didn't do, which in turn was turning into, well, then that means I can't do X, Y, and Z. Because if I didn't do this, then that means I can't do that. And that's where all of that stinking thinking and all of that other mess comes into. We'll talk about that another Sunday, where all of that mess comes in and impacts your mindset. And so understanding your thought process, the importance of your thought process and how you think and view yourself, is a direct correlation to making yourself a priority. And so when I started to turn that thinking around, when I started to say, okay, God, I'm not going to focus on him, I'm going to focus on me, that was another step in the direction of making me a priority to me. So, with that being said, I'm going to run through them right quick. I had to acknowledge, accept, and appreciate how I was feeling. I had to fill my space with powerful words. I had to get outside and move, and I had to forgive myself. Those are the 4 major steps that I had to participate in, that I had to take in order to make myself essential again, in order to make myself a priority to me. Um, and that is what I offer you, those 4 steps in making you a priority. So if you feel like you are focusing on what other people are or are not doing, if you feel like you are not in a place where you want to be, if you feel like you just can't seem to find that joy that you once had, if you feel like you are settling for less than what you know God has for you, if you feel like you are accepting behaviors that are not in a line with the direction and the purpose that you know that God has for your life, then I challenge you. I challenge you to ask yourself, am I making myself a priority? Or am I focused on everything and everyone else other than me? If the answer is yes, then I challenge you, second challenge, to go through these 4 steps and to really look inwardly about what you need to do in order to find your joy and make yourself a priority. So I'm going to close with this: self revitalization, just like urban revitalization, is based less on destruction and tearing things down and more on renovation and investment. The pain of our past is what destroys us and makes us lose sight of our own essentialism, our own importance, our own priority. And we must invest in the process of true forgiveness to renovate who we are, to renovate our souls, and to make ourselves, to make you a priority to you once again. Well, thank you all so much for joining me. I always get on these things and forget to do all kinds of things. So this time I'm going to speak about it. I'm not just going to post it up. So before we go, if you want to stay connected with me and kind of find out all that is going on, I encourage you to get on my list, and you can do that by going to www.meabundantly.com. You'll get your free gift about my free action guide for activating the power of a more. I'm really excited about that. So right quick, you can just go to that, put that right in your browser. You can go straight to that. You can sign up for my activation guide. It'll come directly to you, and you will learn all about me and what is going on with She Went Unlimited. Know that I am here in this space every Sunday at 6 o'clock Eastern Time, talking about something new every week, talking about something that is going to help you move towards audacious success. That is the goal. Living successfully, living um, an abundant life. That's what I want to say. Living an abundant life, living the life that you know you are destined to have, because that's what God has called us to. He has called us to a life of abundance. God has called us to a life of a more. And one of the ways to get there is to know that you are a priority. So, with that being said, it is Sunday. Have a fantastic winning week. I will see you on social media at some point. Like I said, please feel free to go and download the free gift that I have for you. And until next Sunday, winning together, keep it up. Thanks, ladies. Have a great evening and fantastic winning week.